I'm Bailey Howard,
And I'm Morgan Scott.
and we will be presenting on the latest trend, hashtag
Sober
sober
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
Shown that alcohol consumption has been declining. The World Health Organization has made a study and proved that alcohol consumers have decreased by almost 5% since 2000, and there's a trend showing a continued downward slope. Beer sales have decreased by almost 5 years in a row.
No alcoholic beer only holds 5% of the beer market, but it has outrun alcoholic beer 5-1 in the last 6 years and is projected to have a $7 billion market in the next 5 years. Countering this, however, no-low beer holds 90% of the low-no market, and this rise is expected to continue and increase from 2020 to 2024. I'm sure you're all wondering, did the coronavirus pandemic put a halt to low alcohol consumption? The truth is, there may have been a small halt and a little bit of a slow, but no necessary decline. Some factors affecting the growth of no alcohol beverages would be that people were being forced to stay home. There is a huge mental health crisis, and to-go alcoholic beverages put a rise to alcoholic consumption.
So even with all of these factors, there still wasn't a decline in the no and low alcohol sales categories. It just slowed down the growth that was expected. But now there's actually projections that once we get through this and past the pandemic, we are going to have an even larger growth in the no low alcohol segment than we were going to before.
So this graph just shows a little bit more about that slow and halt that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on the low-no alcohol market. So in 2020, you see that small little halt and slow. However, new businesses have joined the low-no industry, and this will continue to rise as the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic kind of dwindle down and come to a slow as well, and more people start noticing this trend and hopping on it as well.
So worldwide, the no-low non-alcoholic beverage market was valued at $900 billion in 2019, and then by 2027, it's projected to be worth about $1 trillion. And then nationwide, there was a growth of excess of 30% in 2020 for the no-low alcohol non-alcoholic beverage market.
In today's society, many people have hopped on the trend of the low-no alcohol beverages. Mostly millennials and Gen Z have chosen to consume less alcoholic beverages during the pandemic, while others chose to consume more. This is because millennials and Gen Z tend to want to live a healthier lifestyle and maintain their health for a longer period of time. And this has caused them to want to get outside more and focus more on what they eat and drink, and also just be more active and go to the gym more. So the key factors in making people want to hop on the no alcoholic beverage trend is physical health, well-being, and also mental health. This is the same thing that why people have hopped on trends such as health foods, going vegan, and even increase in non-dairy milk. Millennials and Gen Z are willing to try new, healthier alternatives to traditional non-alcoholic beverages such as low-no alcohol beers, low-no alcohol spirits, and not just your everyday sugary mocktail, which we're trying to avoid in this new low-no alcohol industry. Another thing that is a huge factor to the low-no alcohol trend is the importance of mental health, and with the COVID-19 mental health crisis, many people are choosing to keep the edge in clarity and participating in many low alcohol social events that combat that negative mental health.
Pandemic did have an effect on the no low alcohol beverage sales since they are mostly sold on premise, meaning they're sold at restaurants and bars, not necessarily at grocery stores. So having all of the restaurants and bars shut down during the pandemic definitely affected its sales, and bringing that back is going to be key to the growth of this no-low alcohol market. And then if we look back on history, the Great Recession is the closest thing to a relatable economic impact that we've had to COVID-19. And during this time, there actually was a slight increase of absenteeism from alcohol of 0.8%. So I think that this definitely helps show us that there is going to be growth in the industry and a boom after we get through this.
News for the low no alcohol industry, because alternatives exist rather than just the old sugary mocktails that we used to drink. So some alternatives for alcoholic beverages are going to be things like mocktails, but the new and improved versions are going to be the less sugary versions, and then alcohol-free spirits and beer, which there's an example to your right, which is going to be the Ritual Tequila alternative that is 0 proof. There's always soda products, tea, coffees, flavored syrups, and there's now a new concept of concentrates, which, for example, there's a whiskey concentrate where you can just add a few pumps into water of your choice, and it tastes and smells just like whiskey, and many bars are hopping on this trend as well as restaurants.
So more and more people have begun actually entering the mocktail industry. As Bailey mentioned earlier, in the past, mocktails have been expensive to make, full of sugar, but recently there has been a huge improvement in concentrates, non-alcoholic beers, spirits, and that sort of thing, where you can just add it to water and it'll actually taste like the real thing. So this has actually helped increase the people in the group wanting to join this no and low alcohol beverage movement, since it does make it seem a lot like the real thing and makes it a lot more accessible and easier for them to get to. And then in 2019, this idea of the sober bar pop-up began, and it offers a judgment-free space where there is 0 alcohol. People can go, they can be social, and there's not any hangovers after. You don't have to worry about DUIs happening. It just made it a super accessible space for people to have a social hangout with the environment of a bar, but not necessarily binge drinking. So there's a federal survey that showed that nearly 67 million Americans binge drink at least once monthly, which means that women were downing about 4 beverages a night and men about 5. So this could become a huge problem, especially if people are wanting to be more health conscious. And the sober bar is a safe space that people could go and have the same sort of social atmosphere, but not necessarily worry so much about being peer pressured into wanting to drink.
Yes, and many small companies and entrepreneurs have also been hopping on this trend to make low, no alcohol beverages. Some larger distilleries are even expanding on that, which are making it even more accessible for consumers. So some brands that already have a name out there are now creating their low, no alcohol beverages, which are making people even more curious that weren't so sure about the industry before. One of those is Cotswolds Distillery, which is a distillery in England, and they figured out a way to make their concentrate derived from their botanicals of their dry gin, which this kind of goes on what I was saying about the whiskey earlier. This is just another concept of creating their concentrate that anybody at home can create, or can make it easier for bars to create behind the counter. You just add a few drops of this into any water or sparkling water of your choice, give it a little mix, and it'll taste and smell just like the real thing. In conclusion, the alcohol-free industry is projected to continue its rise as the effects of the coronavirus pandemic slow, with many brands adding non-alcoholic versions of their already previously loved drinks, and new brands creating a whole new market. Many others will continue to jump on this trend.
So as the Generation Z begins to enter the legal age of alcohol consumption, they do prioritize health and well-being a lot more than some other generations, and millennials prefer that health and well-being as well. So I definitely would suggest if you're a bar owner or own a restaurant, you jump on this trend while it's on the rise.